Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I hope everyone is doing okay today. Let me check my volume before I start. My wife is not feeling well, and so I've been checking on her between the shows to make sure she's doing okay. There we go. Good. Sounds good. So, coming on the show today, I have Teslyn Figueroa. She's going to be here at 4 p.m. Now, you may not know who she is. She's the person at the center of, well, not the center, kind of a side thing. She's somebody who was used to essentially hit Our Revolution and Nina Turner in the Political article that essentially went after, well, the aforementioned people, Our Revolution and Nina Turner. Our Revolution is not a person, but it perpetuates the workable point of view of Sanders. So let's just say the organization. She's going to be here at 4 p.m. Eastern to give her take on what's been taking place in addition to what goes on behind the scenes between media and politics. I'm fascinated by this because as we're talking about this is somewhat of a political hit job in and of itself, using media to do it. So there's going to be that at 4. That's going to be awesome. What I want to talk about before we get to 4, because we have about an hour and a half before the show, it is something a little different. And while I say this, Let's put this on. I like to hear this sometimes.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Let's cut him down a bit, but let's keep Obama crooning in the background. He croons so well. I suspect that's probably partially why people love him. That same Obama who's crooning in the background, singing the Mania Grace. Obama, in order to kind of take a jive at Trump, and this isn't me defending Trump. If anything, this is me attacking Obama. Those things are somewhat different. But I'm attacking for a very specific reason, and it goes along the line with, and doesn't line up with my values. And in this case, it does not. Obama, hitting at Trump, says, I didn't have scandals during my presidency. This is the article that I'm drawing this from. In the Hill. Obama jokingly brags, I didn't have scandals during my presidency. Former President Obama jokingly bragged about his administration at the tech conference in Las Vegas, saying he didn't have scandals during his presidency.
Amazing grace.
Let's start back up. There wasn't any malicious intent, which is why I didn't have scandals, which seems like it shouldn't be something you brag about, Obama joked at the conference hosted by identity security company Okta on Wednesday. But actually, if you look at the history of modern presidency, coming out of a modern presidency without anybody going to jail is really good. It's a big deal. This is aimed at Trump, and I understand where he's coming from. Political actors hit each other. For the moment, though, let's go back to 1980s or so. In fact, it was after 1980s. It was in the second term of Ronald Reagan. The person who Republicans love to talk about. Oh, Ronald Reagan. Yes, Ronald Reagan. He was a breakthrough presidency. And to some degree, they're right. The image of the Democrat today is essentially the image of Ronald Reagan. Now, here's the catch. Obama saying, I really didn't have any scandals during my presidency is interesting, and I would make the argument, is a condemnation on media and us. What is a scandal is purely up for what media determines is a scandal, and what the human being, for the most part, looks at and gives some level of credibility to or not, on whether or not the media is right in saying that something is an outrage and something is a scandal. This demands focus. This is a problem. Oh my God, I can't believe this is taking place. What is this president doing? How is this president doing this? What powers does this president have to do this? Should the president have power to do this? Those things. It's a scandal. It's a big deal. It's a bombshell. It's something that goes against our norms, against us as human beings. Oh my God! This is a problem. But if you notice, what's a scandal is purely determined in many respects by media. People may have things that they're pissed and annoyed about, but they don't have the megaphone in order to make this loud. The media sees all sorts of things, thousands of things that it can put its finger on, but it chooses very specific things to talk about, and even more specific things to drag into the limelight of a scandal and bear its glare upon it. Obama is saying, I didn't have any of those. And I'm saying you had many of those. The media just chose not to say anything about it and not to make it a scandal, which is, again, is somewhat of a condemnation on mainstream media and a failure of mainstream media and us as human beings. During the... let me restart him. Ronald Reagan ended up in a problem called the Iran-Contra affair. The Iran-Contra affair was essentially President of the United States. Reagan was able to eschew blame, saying, I didn't know anything about it. The Gipper, saying he was blissfully unaware of it, essentially allowed the CIA to funnel weapons or sell weapons to Iran, supposedly our enemies, for hostages, in addition to getting back hostages, to use some of that money in order to funnel to terrorists in Nicaragua. Now, this is somewhat of amazing. Congress had forbade Reagan from essentially getting involved in that conflict when Reagan, the reality show host of their time, took office. Reagan, or the CIA, whichever you want to say it, if you want to say Reagan was involved, I don't necessarily know. I suspect he was. But whatever, it's blissfully unaware, supposedly. Takes the money, funnels it to terrorists, using those terrorists to try to overthrow the government that he didn't particularly like in Nicaragua. I think it was a communist government. That was a scandal. Not just a scandal, there were hearings. You can call them show trials, because in our show trials, we eventually let people out of jail. I think one guy got convicted. I'm sorry, multiple people got convicted. I think one guy ended up serving time in jail. Some of these people were silently pardoned. That was a scandal. It was a big fucking deal that the President of the United States was doing deals with people who we consider to be our enemies, and then using the money for those deals to pay terrorists to undermine another government. That was a big fucking deal. And it should be a big deal. Because ultimately, it makes us ask, wait a minute, the president is doing what? The Gipper wouldn't do that. The Gipper wouldn't sell weapons to terrorists. Oh my God, the Gipper did do that? Why would the Gipper do that? We're supposed to stand for freedom, justice, equality. We're supposed to be Americans. We're supposed to be helping democracies across the planet. We help win World War II. We help prop up Japan. We help create the Germany that we have today. We help set up the world order. We don't get involved in this. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. It is what they did. And they were being prosecuted for those things. And it was a scandal. It was a big deal. It was in the media. It was in the press. The guy who's just popped his head up, Oliver North, he's now in politics recently. But Oliver North was one of the big figures and leading figures. And I remember this as a child watching the hearings. I didn't know what it was about, but I remember it being on TV constantly. Fast forward to today. We have the president singing Amazing Grace, getting the Nobel Peace Prize, ended up killing thousands of human beings. But this wasn't a scandal. Nearly 90% of the people that Obama hit in these drone strikes when these things were evaluated were civilians.
Great.
There we go. Sing 90% of the people killed in the recent drone strikes were not the target. According to the new report on Intercept, nearly 90% of the people killed in recent drone strikes in Afghanistan were not the intended targets. Documents detailing the Special Operation Campaign in northeastern Afghanistan, Operation Haymaker, showed that between 2012 and 2013, U.S. Special Operation airstrikes killed more than 200 people. Of those, only 35 were the intended target. During one 5-month period, the operation, according to the documents, nearly 90% of the people killed in the airstrikes were not the intended targets. In Yemen and Somalia, where the United States has far more limited intelligence capabilities, confirm the people killed are intended targets, the equivalent ratios may be, well, much worse. The man who's singing Amazing Grace and who say he has no scandals had a situation where 90% of the people he was killing were civilians. How is that not a scandal? At that point, you're not even killing terrorists at that point. You're just killing human beings. You're just mowing human beings now under the guise of terrorists. The media didn't care about that. That should have been a big deal. The media didn't care. The media didn't make that a scandal. We stand for freedom and justice, but we're also killing 90% civilians. What if that number is inflated? Let's say it was 70% civilians. You're still just murdering human beings at that point. But the media didn't see that it was a scandal. The media didn't think that was a big deal. Us mowing down scores of human beings that are completely innocent of anything wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a big deal. So Obama gets to say, I didn't have any scandals. Let's go to something that I think is even worse. This. Right here. This should have been a scandal the moment Tulsi Gabbard uttered this out of her mouth.
I'll tell you what I heard from the Syrian people that I met with, Jake, walking down the streets in Aleppo, in Damascus, hearing from them. They expressed happiness and joy at seeing an American walking through their streets, but they expressed a question. They said, why is it that the United States, its allies and other countries, are providing support, are providing arms to terrorist groups like al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, Arar al-Sham, ISIS, who are on the ground there raping, kidnapping, torturing, and killing the Syrian people, children, men, women, people of all ages. They asked me, why is the United States and its allies supporting these terrorist groups who are destroying Syria when it was al-Qaeda who attacked the United States on 9/11, not Syria? I didn't have an answer for them.
Obviously, the United States government denies providing any sort of help to the terrorist groups that you're talking about. They say
the guy who's stuttering right there is Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, in this case, was just told that the United States, the Obama government, was giving money and weapons to terrorists, and those weapons and terrorists were rapists and killers. Essentially, we were supporting people who were trying to undermine the government and people who were essentially killing and harming them, the civilians. Why is the United States, under Barack Obama's leadership and the Obama administration, giving weapons and munitions to terrorists? Why are they doing that? That, in that very moment, should have been an instant bombshell. Jake Tapper's response shouldn't have been put his head back on. Somebody winds him back up. The government says that's not happening. Well, here's the thing. Here's the truth of it. Fox News doing a bit of actual investigative journalism. I gave the United States trucks and munitions to Al-Qaeda, the chaotic U.S. effort to arm Syrian rebels. And it wasn't just this guy who they actually found who said, yes, I gave these weapons and munitions to terrorists because it's a dangerous area and I needed to get from point A to point B. The United States was not all that picky about who was ending up with those weapons because Obama had the aim of taking down the Syrian government and at the same token stopping the terrorists. Both of these strategies was nonsense and ridiculous. We shouldn't have had anything to do with it. But nevertheless, this war that has killed hundreds of thousands of people were allowed to bubble on. And the United States, not wanting to get fully involved into a conflict, but at the same token wanting Bashar al-Assad to leave, gave weapons and munitions to terrorists. Ronald Reagan got caught doing that. Now, the catch is, Ronald Reagan was more sly about doing it, but he still ended up getting caught. Well, Obama got caught. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. That Syrian war was allowed to rage on. Hundreds of thousands of people being killed in that conflict. If Obama hadn't given weapons and munitions because he wanted to take down the Syrian government, that war might have been over with much faster. I agree with some people that said it might have started off as people with civil strife, in which case I back the Syrians 1,000%. But the moment that the United States and Saudi Arabia and all these other Western elements started to get their hands in the bunch, then no, I'm not for it. And the fact is, with Obama's support, that war has been able to bubble on, killing more and more people as they give money to more and more terrorists. That's the truth of the matter. Go further. I hadn't even thought about this one, but Libya. You destroy the country. You You destroyed a country. You literally destroyed a country. They're selling slaves. The irony of a black president ending up in a situation where his policies have them selling blacks, slaves. But he never had a scandal.
Amazing grace.
My point is, these are thousands of lives that have been killed at what Obama has been doing for foreign policy. Just 20 years prior, 20, 30 years prior, what Obama did was a major scandal under the Reagan administration. Yes, there were differences, but at the end of the day, you still end up in a situation with a sitting president working through the CIA to fund terrorist elements in order to take down another government. They had the integrity. They at the very least have trials back then. These days, nothing. So it allows the black president, who called himself progressive, while at other times admitted that he was for the most part just a regular Republican if he was being asked several years prior, to skate in this kind of joyful way of saying, I've had no scandals during my term. I didn't have scandals during my administration. I just had sometimes mowing down civilians to the tune of 90%, allowing blacks to go belly up while essentially helping and throwing my body on the bankers to protect the bankers from the pitchforks, just destroying the country. I mean, but hey, everybody destroys a country. And in this case, allowing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people to get killed in a war that we should have nothing to do with, as we give weapons and munitions to terrorists who are raping and killing people in every jump in the world.
Found that grace. Cynthia Heard.
It's a scandal. All of those things are scandals. And the idea that the media doesn't call it such is a condemnation on the media and where we've moved as a society. When that hit Reagan, that almost took down Reagan presidency. Reagan had to come on and give a testament to the public itself on what has been taking place and give his own political spin about why he didn't have anything to do with it. Jake Tapper reflexively gave the typical political line to explain away why the United States, who was supposed to be freedom, justice, equality, and protect democracies and everything else, was essentially paying terrorists. It is a farce that you've had no scandals during your presidency. Multiple items in your presidency was a scandal. The media just didn't call it such. They let you skate, they let you pass. Whatever the reason you want to say they let him skate and pass, they let him skate and pass. All of those things should have been scandals. And it gets across where we've moved from the standpoint of a media landscape and a political landscape just from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. Whether it would have been enough to take down Obama's presidency, it damn sure should have been enough for testimony and everything else. Is kind of, at the very least, the theater that there's a problem with us giving money and weapons to terrorists. It is a problem with us making the determination to align ourselves with terroristic countries that we know are terroristic countries, where our political leaders take money from countries that we know are terroristic countries. Hillary Clinton said in her own notes that she knew Saudi Arabia spread terrorism through that region of the world. In no way did it stop her from taking the money. I am making a point that what's considered a scandal is essentially manufactured by the media to be a scandal. There are some things that the public may care about that may coincide with what the media is talking about, but oftentimes the media is used as a football from a political landscape, and oftentimes the media has its own particular political disposition in the way it goes about its affairs. It is the political bias, the political disposition of media to see certain things as scandals, but not others. And the way the political landscape or the media landscape has changed, there has been a weird collusion between the two. So a president of the United States can murder 90% civilians and nothing. Nothing at all. He can destroy a country. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And even going so far as to say, when this was a big deal for the Reagan generation, and our generation when the president is funding terrorists, nothing. No, Obama, you didn't have scandals. And that is an amazing condemnation on mainstream media that they didn't call the shit that took place during your administration a scandal. And there's an amazing condemnation on us that we didn't have this kind of humanistic belief system. Look at this guy and say this guy is murdering a lot of people. How is he getting a pass? So, I'm not going to hold this one long. I saw this and it annoyed the shit out of me. It didn't have a scandal. Check your sound. My sound looks okay. You guys aren't hearing me? Oh, you said turn it off. Sounds okay. Let's see, sound. Somebody said turn it off. Yes, I'm turning it off. But you guys get my point. Sitting, Joshua Renshaw. Oh, Jesus Christ, Joshua. Sitting here at work a few months back, I was dealing with some health problems, felt afraid, and more than anything alone. Your show made me feel like my thoughts were not singular and not lost in the darkness. Thank you for all you do. You literally save lives like me. Oh, Joshua, thank you. Thank you, man. I hope you guys can hear this okay. Yeah, okay, good. I hear you loud and clear. He's restarting the song on purpose. Yeah, I am. I'm restarting on purpose. Joshua, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I mean, as somebody who's had health problems and who's... I didn't mean this one to go long. But Joshua, thank you. I really appreciate it. Look, one of the problems or one of the difficulties that I noticed just as a human being was this thing of believing that you're singular. Like sometimes this is very difficult to be who you are when you believe that the group itself is not necessarily on board with you. And it's somewhat disempowering to not know that you have allies, or not to know that other people out there are that are similar to you, that are just like you, that may sound like you, think like you, all those things, that you are not alone in pursuing your affairs. When you're ill, that gets doubly so. You're trapped in a body that is not working all that well. And you're still seeing people functioning and doing the things that you would want to do, you would prefer to do, you would like to be out there doing, but you're stuck in a body that's not working the way it's supposed to work. You're trapped. This consciousness is grafted onto this thing that aches and hurts and can't necessarily get you from point A to point B. And you don't necessarily have the freedom that you want to have. You're stuck. That's a horror. It's an aggravating place to be. Let me say it that way. But knowing that other people are in similar dispositions, that other people deal with those things, and that other people kind of have similar situations, it helps. In an odd way, it helps. It's that feeling of not necessarily fully being alone. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. And I don't mean the money. I mean what you just said. Yes, I appreciate the super cash too, of course. But look, I spent years being ill. I think from the time I was 17 to the time I was maybe 30, I had more surgeries than I could count, than pretty much anybody that I've come across in my family or anywhere else, and even in many of the facilities that I was in. I had a hellish time. Had an awesome childhood and essentially raising up with my parents, with my mom, single parent and all. But those years after were hellish. There are times where somebody gives you a different perspective of things. That changes it. It helps. I know it sounds odd, but your perspective, you don't live in a hard and fixed reality, even though sometimes your perspective makes you feel like the world that you're living in is hard and fixed. And sometimes somebody would say something, do something. Somebody would point you in a particular way. Somebody would change your workable point of view in a way where you start seeing the world in somewhat different ways. And it helps. I mean, honestly, these shows, when you look at my show or you look at some of the other shows, and people talk about this thing of being awake and everything else, all of that is just a perspective change. The material world as it stands hasn't necessarily changed. How you see that world has changed. And it gives you new opportunities, new potentials, new things that you want to push for and strive for, new ways of looking at it, new ways of understanding it. The world itself hasn't moved. You have. If that makes sense. It helps. It does help. It doesn't necessarily always change the way it is, but it does help. Trina, be fine. You're a torturer, Jamal. Oh, because of Obama singing. The hard part is when you're hurting and listening to mainstream media coming stupid, unimportant shit in line. Jamal is a cut through that brings it, that matters. You know what's wild about that? You're right. You're right. Like my mom, I give a perfect example. My mom, we just found out that I was going to have some surgery or something. And, you know, it was... at this point, I had been in the hospital for like maybe a month or so, but this is like repeatedly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's going on for like a year, And my mom is driving to the hospital for, she's just going to be there. She used to hang out. I hated people visiting me in the hospital. But there was no way my mom was going to tolerate me telling her not to be there. And she probably would have cut the nurse if the nurse would have said, Mr. Thomas, your son said he doesn't want visitors. Hated visitors. So but she's driving there one day. Oh, I know it is. It's after a hurricane. So the lines are down. So think of it as, this was like one of the worst days of my life. The hurricane in Richmond, in Virginia. I'm in the hospital. It takes down the power in all of the city. So water and everything else at this point is scarce. The hospital is getting water piped into the country, into the place. We're running on generator power. And they tell me, you have to have a surgery. I'm throwing up all night. Throwing up blood all night. And she, it was during this time, this was as they was coming back on, she's driving to the hospital. And she's listening to the radio. And, she's hearing them talk about nonsense. Like she's listening to the news. I think it's like NPR or something. But she's like, my kid is fucking sick. You guys are talking about nonsense. It's like in that one moment, she woke up. She was like, wait a minute, there are larger things than the stupid shit that these people talk about. There are things that make us human beings. There are things that unite us with one another that exceed many of the nonsense that these guys talk about. And she was angry. It wasn't necessarily angry because her son was sick or anything else. She was angry because she thought from the standpoint of, this stuff is nonsense. This is crazy talk. They're not talking about things that actually matter. They're not talking about things that actually deal with the real matters that affect us. And this very specific point, her kid being sick was the thing that woke her up out of it. I mean, there are larger things in our reality that people deal with. And the media goes on with this. It's just, it's this ever chatter of nonsense. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Trump voters are progressives who just don't agree with race baiting. Perseus Gold. Yes, kind of, maybe, sometimes, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. There's some of them, yeah. There's some of them that don't like to be told what to say from the standpoint of race. There's some of them that are just racist. Let's be honest. I mean, you're not going to get all of them. I'm not even trying to get all of them. I just want the segment that says, I voted for Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton because I don't want to be told who to vote for. And he told me hope and change, and I didn't get hope and change. I didn't get what I was looking for. Those are the people I want. Those are the people I want. I want those people who just, like you said, they don't want to deal with, I just want them to focus on economics. I want those people because I think those people are reachable. There's a segment of the Trump voter you'll never reach. I don't even try. I don't even care. But I do think there is a segment that thinks Trump is the way to either hack down the Democratic Party, either use Trump as a brick to say no, that are maybe not necessarily to the far left, but at the very least realize a certain amount of honesty that has taken place, meaning the Democratic Party is full of it and don't live up to what they're talking about, and even to some degree understand that the Republican Party is full of it and is looking for something different. I want those people. I want those people because I think those people understands that the party system is not helping them. That's my point. That both of these parties are corrupt and captured by the same interests. And if you really want to get anything accomplished and anything changed, if you really want to have an honest debate on what you would get accomplished and change, you never get it through the two parties. You're not going to get it through the two parties. So, Thork Gonsnam Sam, because Fox News and their granddads, that's funny. Covert White Rabbit. I like that. Perseus, the United States would think your conservatives are wild-eyed. What was the last part? Wild-eyed flaming liberals that stage a glorious people's revolution. Jamal, Progressive Union, I can tell you're a leader. I don't know if I'm a leader. I'm just not a follower, if that makes sense. Perseus Go, the Ontario Progressives Conservatives then would probably be center-left party by American standards, given the working and lower middle-class focus by having low corporate tax. Yeah, they would be Democrats. But here's the thing. It all goes into the standpoint of what you care about more. Do you care about people or profits? Do you care about making sure that people are more kept and making sure that our affairs are dealt with? Or do you care more about profits? In our political system, these guys are fundamentally paid. I mean, you have 75% of your time spent begging for money. I don't even know how you read legislation. What's all the time spent begging and asking for money? But with that much focus on cash, are you telling me that with that much focus on cash, they ignore the fact that they're getting that cash when they go out and do their jobs? Nonsense. Of course not. The Tories in the UK equals US Democrat zombie and air. Yes, agreed. Agreed. I am Sylar. You say at least 15% of Trump Republican voters are racist, but what percentage of Hillary Democratic voters do you think are racist? Happy Memorial Day in chat, Jamal. Make America great again. I am Sylar. All right, so first, that number is not a hard number. I don't know what that number is, to be exact. I use 15% because I think that number is true, but I don't know that as a flat fact. That's the first part. What I do know is history. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Like 15% or a percentage of the Republicans used to be Democrats. The moment Democrats jumped on this bandwagon of letting African Americans into the country, those guys jumped into the Republican Party. Like, that did happen. Like, that's not something that's made up. You had two of the Republicans themselves, the lead Republicans, Michael Steele and the other cat, come out and even own up and admit to such. But look, if you feel some kind of way about me saying that, if you go back in time further, Democrats were the Dixiecrats. They were utterly racist. So you had this polarity shift in the party itself. It's what it is. You may have another polarity shift at some point where Republicans are the ones that that have the peaceniks, or the people who are more inclined to be inclusive. But that's not where we stand right now. You may hate me saying that, but it's utterly true. If you go to those Trump rallies versus going to a Sanders rally, you will see a vast discrepancy or disparity in those two rallies. One looks like a hate fest. The other one looks like a Woodstock hippie fest. Now, does that mean that all of the Republicans are that way? No, it doesn't. Of course not. And you would never hear me say such a thing. But a percentage? Fuck yeah, there's going to percentage. There's a percentage of Democrats that are probably that way. And with Democrats, it's weirder because you have this thing of yeah, it's weird. I don't want to go into the conversations on race like that, but it's enacted slightly differently, if that makes sense. It's not overt. It's done in an odd, passive way. This kind of yeah, it's a moot point. Look, I don't know what that number is from the standpoint of Democrats, and it's less important to me only because their identity at this point of the party is focused purely on identity. Meaning, regardless of what they harbor and what they're thinking about, ultimately they focus on this idea of identity to this extreme degree, even to the exclusion of other things. So, if you ask me why I may say something like that about the Republican Party but not Democrats, because there is a disparity in these things. I mean, you have Democratic Party so over the top where I've heard them use white male as a pejorative when they're talking about somebody. It's fucking ridiculous. It's like, you're just a white man. And it's like, okay, well, what does that got to do with the guy? What was that got to do with the guy's point? It's like, shit, man. That's not a pejorative. I've done videos where I've gone after people. I think, what is his name? Winnie Wu or Wong or whatever her name is, saying, don't do that. Like, you can't do that. I don't like that. Like Tom Perez talking about using Sanders being white as a way to attack Sanders because he understands that you have some Democrats who are rabid about this thing of identity. So if you're asking me what percentage of Democrats, I have no idea what the percentage is, but between the two parties, one party trends in a particular way that I would say trends at the very edge of the base towards racism. You would have another party that trends at the edge of the base, especially from the standpoint of the Democrats, with this idea of making identity the only thing that matters. I'm not trying to get the people who are on the edges of those. I'm not. The people who are on the edge from the Republican standpoint would never watch this video. They would never see me, and anything that I say is going to be put through the confines of race. And to some degree, same with Democrats. The parties are different. I don't have to treat the parties exactly the same when I know that there are differences in the way that the parties operate. As for, or what was your other part? That was something else you said. I just want to make that clear. That's not a slant or a slight at all the Republicans. And thank you for Happy Memorial Day, dude. I appreciate it. Happy Memorial Day back at you. Look, when I say that, I'm talking about just objective reality. Certainly you have to know that there's a percentage. I mean, come on. let's be straight with each other. Let's be straight with each other. I am Salar. I guess my point is, why does it matter? Racists are going to be racist. Why push the mainstream media narrative that Trump and his supporters are racist? It's not that I pushed the narrative, dude. If I'm saying 50%, that's not the entirety of it. And it's not about pushing the mainstream narrative. If mainstream media hits a particular thing that's right, I have no issue with saying mainstream media is right on a particular issue. It just depends on what the issue is. It's not something that I focus on. I don't even think it's something that I continuously bring up. You brought that up here, by the way. That wasn't me that brought that up. One catch. Racists are going to be racist. And those people were backing the Republican Party, whether Trump, whether Romney, whether McCain, whether whoever. They were going to back the Republican Party regardless. So I don't have this thing in my head that all of these, this new breed of racists have just come out of the woodwork and they've been hiding under the lawn in order to vote for Trump. I don't think that at all. But do I think that part of the base is that way? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. Do I think Donald Trump is racist? Fuck, yes. Yes. Do I think all of his supporters that way? No, I don't. I've met too many people who are Trump supporters to think that all of his supporters are that way. And Democrats fail to explain how 20 or 30% voted for Obama and voted for Trump. They try to, and Silo, just to make a point for you, that I do agree with. They're trying to create a headwind. Part of the thing of the Trump stuff being racist and everything else is to try to create a headwind on the people who are going to vote for Trump. Meaning, if they vote for Trump, in their head, they're thinking to themselves, oh, this is kind of gross to make this vote because of XYZ. So some of this is somewhat political gamesmanship, and using media for that political gamesmanship in order to create this kind of mass effect on perspective, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But it's not for me to play into it or not to play into it. My goal in this is not to be fully a political actor. My goal in this is to just say, this is the media, this is the news, this is the story as the way I see it. If within the context of that story that comes up, it comes up. I don't have this thing of trying to defend. Because, look, here's the thing. The moment that I'm saying, I don't want to toe X, and so I'm going to say something different than what's true, then I've just lied to the audience. Like, at that point, I've intentionally lied to the audience. And why? Because I don't want to follow into their nonsense with Trump. So fuck that. No. Call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade. Fascinating conversation. Hope Angela Nagel is watching. I don't know who Angela Nagel is. Part of the base of foreigners. You're making sense, Jamal Anthony Allen. Good. I hope I am. All right, guys. I'm going to end this one. Be honest, Jamal. Fair enough, Salah. Fair enough. Be honest. By the way, Salar, that's the way I talk. It's not a I have to know sometimes that on this channel, not everybody is going to know you. So it's not like interacting with people who are around you, where you're like, come on, be honest. Where they know you as you're just saying, it's a way of you talking in conversation of saying, be intellectually honest. Is that really what you're trying to say? That's not you're fucking lying to me, etc. I have to remember sometimes that my colloquialisms and the things that I say is not necessarily something that everybody knows all throughout the world, because there are going to be people all throughout the world who's looking at this conversation. So, yeah, when I'm saying that, it's not an indictment that you're intentionally lying to me, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to end this here. Joshua Ridgesaw, is there a cap on how much super chat you're allowed to donate? No, I don't think so. When I try to comment to Sylar, it makes an error. Try it again. It shouldn't. Yeah, it shouldn't. Persico wants an interview live stream interaction. It would be very interesting. The best thing about the show is watching chat bait you into turning a 15-minute video into 2 hours. Love the show. Treat it be fun. Well, look, my part of me trying to turn this into, you can call it like a small bits, me interact, like me doing the videos. I get into trouble with this because I enjoy talking to my audience. Like, so it's like, all right, in my head, all right, make the video short. And then you talk to someone in the audience, and then you say something else, and you say something else. And you find yourself having this kind of conversation back and forth on stuff that you think is important, you think that people at the very least are talking about, because otherwise you wouldn't be talking about it. And I find it interesting. And so I end up getting stuck in this situation of having a conversation back and forth. And And look, part of it feels like too is it's my audience. If the people, if they're willing to come here and sit me talk about something or listen to me talk about something, if they have something to get off their chest, I want them to get off their chest. If that makes sense. That's just identity politics you're pandering into. And, in an odd way it is. Like, people keep thinking identity politics is just, multicultural. But no, it's just multicultural from the standpoint of you being white. None of those contexts are necessarily objective or the standard. All of the standards change depending upon the context that you're standing in. If you're black, multiculturalism is all this other stuff, including white. To me, it's all of it. If you're pandering to whites, if you're pandering to blacks, if you're pandering to whatever, that stuff is a focus on identity politics. Now, I don't necessarily hate that, but I hate it if it's used as a proxy for other stuff that will be more inclusive of the society itself. Meaning, if you're using that as a proxy to not talk about economic issues that affects people's ability to eat, sleep, have food, have a roof over their head, shelter, live a decent life as a human being and not necessarily begging or at the very least having people hit them over the head and taking money out of their pockets from cradle to the grave, then yeah, I think that's more inclusive. If you're using identity to try to obfuscate from that, then yeah, I'm probably not going to be with you, and I think I'm going to call it out. Persecuted groups can't be, by definition, persecuted. Neoliberals 348. Mike, as central liberals pretend to care about racism to avoid talking about economics and class. Right there, Mike. Yes. And by the way, that's whether they're black or white or women or anything else. They use what they have at their disposal in order to kind of obfuscate from the main economic issues to deal with the issues of identity. Agreed. I'm trying to say the Salar is the difference is that brown and black racist Democrats don't have any power to oppress white people. You aren't the victim you want to be. And blacks and brown don't want to oppress whites. Like, that's the other thing. Man, this is getting into a weird conversation. But blacks are not in a situation where they get up in the morning thinking to themselves they want to oppress a white person. It's not part of the process at all. We just don't want to be fucked over. Like, people in general just don't want to be fucked over. They want a fair society. And let's be honest, we had an uneven and unfair shake in the way the society arranged out. And it gets ignored and lied about. And the people, have this false idea of this American heritage. When they're talking about Russian heritage, they say, oh, God, Lenin was an animal. Lenin was a maniac. The Russian Revolution. We committed genocide. And we hold that up as being this noble thing. And then on that, we took people and turned them into machines. Human machines. Said they were 3/4 or 3/5 a person or 2/3 per whatever that thing is. 1/5 a person or something. And 3/5 compromise. 3/5 a person. And that essentially exceeded itself for years, hundreds of years. And at the end of all of the treasure that was created from all of these people in these miserable conditions, okay, you're free. Have at it. Kick rocks. There's never been an honest conversation on how this country was founded, nor has there been really an honest conversation on the consequences of the way this country was founded in regards to the people who are living here first and the people who helped build this particular society. And it gets worse. I mean, because you're talking about going up to like the 1980s and 1990s, where these people were still either held out of certain housing, held out of certain jobs, and even now gets imprisoned at a much larger rate. Like, it's grossly unfair. They did a study recently showing African Americans get longer prison sentences. Not just longer prison sentences, are more inclined to be locked up by a cop for the exact same thing. I mean, there are differences in the society itself. So I am not against conversations on identity. My issue tends to be the conversations solely on identity to obfuscate from economics. Because many of the issues that I just brought up are economics. The person being able to have a decent job, the person being able to make ends meet, getting healthcare, getting education, all those things. It wouldn't be so bad if you had the capacity to go to school without $50,000 being put on your back. If you had the opportunity to go to school for whatever you wanted to do, for as long as you wanted to, man, you're talking about this kind of release on people in the society itself to do amazing things. But also, even if you had this thing of saying, Look, we're going to make sure that nobody falls below a certain particular point in our society. There are things that we can do to make this society more equitable and more just. We just don't do them. We just don't do them. And not just not do them, not have an honest question on how things happen. And this goes to the Republican side, where they would make these arguments, oh, get over it. Oh, this stuff happened years ago. Oh, and you can understand from the context of somebody who's of color, that seems like a bogus argument that doesn't necessarily honestly address their heritage. That's what you get on the Republican side, though. So I am Solar. When I say that, I am not being unfair. I'm giving you my honest take on it based on how I see the political parties and the way they line themselves up. Is what it is. All right, so I am letting this go. Intersectionalism. Intersectionalism is good, by the way. All of us are connected. All of us are interconnected. The things that we want to accomplish. There is no such thing as an environmentalist getting what that environmentalist wants, especially for a long-term solution, just by attacking the issue at the level of either the landfill or at the level of the oil well. There's too much money backing those things. You have to get to the reason why the person wants to put an oil well there in the first place as opposed to a solar farm or whatever. They never get to the issue. You need intersectionality. You need this thing where all of us realize we're connected to one another. And when we deal with these issues, we deal with these issues as a unit. We've lost that. Like with the organization of labor falling apart under the thumb of the Democratic Party, we've lost that. We've lost it tremendously. So I'm going to end this here because this has gone 46 goddamn minutes. Look, guys, I don't know who's going to be here at this point, but when I do my shows, the first part of my show is me giving my spiel. The next part of the show is the audience having their interaction and we having a kind of conversation back and forth with the audience. The reason why my videos look so long is usually because of that, not necessarily because I'm prattling on for 50 minutes. Just be aware, when you see videos that are long like this, that's why. My wife and I were talking about we're going to travel. We're just going to, pick up boots and go from place to place. There's certain countries that I want to go to that I am not letting her go. And yes, I understand people in the Me Too movement can be like, what do you mean by a let? Yes, goddammit, I mean let. She's my wife. And she may have agency and all the other good stuff, but there's certain places that I'm not letting her go. However, I will be going to those places. Now, before you say, what the fuck? How is he doing? Her mom would murder me if I took my wife to some of the places I wanted to go. I am perfectly willing to put my life on the line to go somewhere. I am not willing to put hers on the line. And this trip is not necessarily purely just something that I wanted to do. It's both of us. But still. There's certain places I don't necessarily know are completely safe that I really want to see. So, but the videos that we would watch, it would be like, oh, that video looks long. Let's not watch it. And so the longer videos... So the longer videos, we were like, okay, let's try it. Or, nah, we just want them quick. It depends on what we're looking for. And so there are times where we would watch a video that was longer, depending on how that first 5 minutes went. But oftentimes, we would look at the video and see a long video, and we're just like, yeah. It all depended on how much interest we had in the subject on whether or not we wanted to go for it. But my point in this is, when you see a video that's very long for me, that's probably me and my audience. Jamal always ensures when we come at the end, because he's a gentleman. Oh, that's funny. And it's so true. But it's funny. And perfectly true. Will literally committed a genocide. The world completely forgave an instant Native Americans. Yes, they did. Thorpe Gonson completely ignored it. Balthazar 228, individuals or persecuted groups cannot do anything wrong, so saith the book of neoliberalism, chapter 20, verse 18. Chapter 20, verse 18. What did the guy, I can't think of his name, they stopped him on Peter Dow. He had a Peter Dow account where he was joking Peter Dow on Twitter. And he said something like, he has a gay cat that thinks it's a dog that's multiracial, that's handicapped. It was some weird stuff that he was putting out, making point to the way that the Democrats lean on identity. It's fucking hilarious. All right. Peter Sush. Oh, that's hilarious. That's one of them. But there's another guy, Peter Douche. I think that's what it's called, Peter Douche. Yeah, Peter Douche. That's it, Peter Douche. Luca. Yeah, what happened to Luca? What's happening? Yeah, Peter Douche. He's like a handicapped dog that was that was sexually harassed. Yeah, that was it. Sexually harassed and all this other stuff. Morgan Freeman was baited by Russian trolls to sexually harass him. All right, yeah, you guys are having me tripping out. I'm going to end this here. Guys, thank you all for showing up. This is the Memorial Day show. Hope you guys have a good Memorial Day. I still have one or two more that I want to do. And by the way, again, at 4 p.m., Teslin, how do I pronounce the last name? Figueroa is going to be here talking about the hit piece in Politico. She was the person who Politico used to try to essentially hit Nina Turner and Our Revolution. This is going to be an amazing interview. So definitely show up, or definitely try to be there for us. I may take in calls. I'll see how she feels about it. But this should be a really good interview. Good on two counts. A, to hear what's been taking place from the standpoint of Our Revolution. B, she's not a Democrat. So I am very curious to hear her perspective on the internal workings of things like Fox News and Our Revolution from the inside out. And see the thing with Nina Turner and all. I feel like that's gossip stuff. And so I'm less interested in that. I saw her post that she made. I don't care about her post in a sense. It's something that people bring up. Again, it's kind of like the Caitlin Johnson attack. Completely missing the context for the way that it's being said. So we are going to talk about those things, though, but I am immensely interested in talking to her. So this should be a great conversation. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern in the next 40 minutes. So I will see you guys probably before that, but I may see you guys, if not before that. I'll see you guys at 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanks everyone for showing up, and you guys have a great, happy Memorial Day.